And this is your host.
Imagine trying to explain the intense, almost spiritual atmosphere of a Super Bowl tailgate to an alien from another galaxy.
Okay, an alien. I like where this is going.
Right. So to do it, you just hand them this dry, printed American football rule book. You give them the dimensions of the field, the penalty yardage, the scoring system.
Yeah, just the raw data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That you look at this alien and say, all right, now go recreate the feeling of 80,000 face-painted fans screaming in a frozen parking lot while smelling charcoal and hot dogs.
Which is obviously impossible.
Completely impossible. Because, I mean, they would possess the raw data, sure, but they would be entirely missing the soul of the event. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
That hilarious, incredibly tricky gap between just, playing the right notes on a page and actually capturing a living, breathing culture.
Sure.
That is exactly what happens when people try to learn Samba outside of his authentic context.
It really is. And we are diving into a deeply fascinating personal reflection today that tackles this exact friction.
Yes, we are.
It's a document titled Samba School, and it's Battery Teaching Way 1. And it's written by a percussionist who has literally lived on both sides of this divide.
Right, he played with the real deal.
Exactly. He played with Rosas de Ouro, which, for those who don't know, is one of the two most prominent samba groups in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Huge group.
Massive. And then he took on this monumental task of teaching these sprawling samba drumlines, which, by the way, are known as batteries. He taught them in both mainland Brazil and, wildly enough, the United States.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to uncover the hidden, sweeping architecture behind these jaw-dropping 400-person samba drumlines.
Yeah, 400 people. It's hard to even picture.
It's staggering. We want to understand the mechanics of how that many people play in sync, but more importantly, we want to look at why simply handing out the instruments and teaching the sheet music fails so spectacularly when that underlying culture is missing.
Right. And to really grasp the stakes here, you have to understand that samba isn't just like a category you select on a streaming app.
No, not at all.
The author points out that samba is the foundational filter for all Brazilian music. Literally every modern genre produced there, starting with bossa nova and rippling out into countless other signature styles, it all passed through that specific samba filter at some point.
Wow, so it's the root of everything.
Exactly. The whole world tries to imitate it, and play things the Brazilian way. But true samba remains this elusive gem because it requires a deeply lived, shared cultural context to actually pull off.
Okay, so let's unpack what that shared context actually looks like. Because before we can understand why teaching this music is so incredibly difficult, we have to establish what an authentic samba experience feels like in its natural habitat.
We really do.
We need to contrast the real deal with later attempts to recreate it in a sterile environment. The author gives us a front-row seat to his authentic experience during the 2012 to 2013 Carnival, playing with Rosas de Ouro, and his collaborations with the Chatagata Brazilian All-Stars drumline.
And the way he describes the psychological and physical intensity of that experience, it's just striking. He compares being inside a competitive samba school to running in the finals match of the Campeonato Brasileiro.
Wait, the premier Brazilian soccer league?
Yes, inside the colossal Maracana Stadium.
That comparison is wild. I mean, you are taking the absolute peak of Brazilian soccer intensity, the deafening noise, the high stakes, the terror of making a mistake in front of thousands of people, and applying it to a drum line.
Because that is the level of mental awareness and total bodily commitment required. It's not, a casual after-school hobby. It is a high-stakes cultural phenomenon.
Right.
And the immersive nature of it goes far beyond the music. The author details the rehearsals at the Quadra da Bateria da Escola de Samba, which essentially translates to the headquarters or the court of the drumline.
Which sounds intense.
It is. You aren't walking into a quiet, acoustically treated room with music stands. You are walking into a sensory overload. He describes the schedule as barbecue and rehearsals, or feijoadas in rehearsals, or pork chops in rehearsal.
I love that.
Yeah.
So the food is physically inseparable from the music making.
Completely intertwined.
It's a communal gathering, a neighborhood feast that just happens to evolve into a rehearsal.
Exactly. And the visual ecosystem is just as vibrant. Every rehearsal meant a different uniform.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The players wore highly colorful battery shirts featuring images for that specific year's theme. They had specific shorts and sometimes even full-fashion kits provided by their corporate sponsors.
That's a lot of coordination.
Right. You are saturated in the visual, social, and culinary identity of the school before you ever even strike a drum.
Which perfectly sets us up for the ultimate culture shock. Because later on, the author is invited to visit the Madrasta Battery at the Goiás Federal University.
Yeah, this is where things get interesting.
So this is a college samba battery set up to make university events more lively. Now, keep in mind, Goiás is in mainland Brazil. A casual observer might assume that because these students are Brazilian, they inherently possess that samba essence.
And the author clearly thought so too. I mean, he arrives at the university completely decked out. He shows up wearing his fancy, highly colorful battery shirt from his carnival days in Sao Paulo, fully expecting to step into this vibrant, chaotic exchange of culture.
And what does he find?
He walks onto the campus, and there is no barbecue.
No pork chops.
There are no pork chops. There's no thematic fashion. There are just a few individuals standing outside a plain concrete university building that has zero connection to the nature of samba.
And their primary concern was entirely mechanical.
Yes.
The author notes that the very first thing they wanted to know was quais são as batidas, meaning what are the beats? They just wanted the specific mathematical rhythms for the instrument.
They just wanted the tabs.
Right. They wanted the breakdown for the caixa, the repenique, and the surdos.
Let's define those instruments quickly so we understand what they were asking for.
Good idea.
The caixa is essentially a snare drum, but played with a very specific driving technique. The repenique is a high-pitched, metallic tom-tom that cuts through the wall of sound. It's often used by the director to signal breaks or changes. And the surdos are those massive, booming bass drums that act as the inescapable heartbeat of the entire line.
Right.
And the students at Goiás just wanted the tablature for them. They were treating a cultural heartbeat like an equation to be solved.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Is this like someone trying to perfectly recreate a beloved, generations-old family recipe by rigidly, scientifically measuring the chemical compounds in a laboratory?
That's a perfect way to look at it.
You might get the exact ratio of salt to flour, but you completely miss the soul of the cooking. The author even uses that culinary concept, right?
Yeah.
It says the university student's performance lacked o tempero brasileiro, the Brazilian spice.
Exactly. And it goes deeper than just missing the soul. They missed the actual mechanism of how the music functions. Knowledge isn't just raw data.
Right.
The students at Madrasta failed to capture the essence because they separated the physical mechanics of the instruments from the communal nature of the people playing them.
It's all connected.
It is. When you strip away the feijoadas, the shifting sponsor shirts, and that overwhelming shared atmosphere of the Quadra da Bateria, you aren't left with pure samba. You are left with an empty shell.
Wow.
You can hit the caixa exactly on the right 16th note, but without the cultural context informing how you hit it, it sounds entirely flat.
Okay, so if native Brazilians at a university are missing the spice because they treat it like a math equation, what on earth happens when you take this art form 6,000 miles away to a place with zero Brazilian context?
Oh man, that leads directly to the author's most bizarre teaching challenge. In 2019, he is invited to the United States to work with the University of Utah.
Their goal, which the author describes as incredibly naive, was to implement a samba battery into an American college football halftime show.
Just think about that.
Let's just pause and appreciate the absurdity of that. They wanted to take this sprawling, pork-chop-fueled, neighborhood-defining culture and drop it into a 10-minute segment of a 30-minute halftime break, nestled somewhere between the marching band playing pop songs and the cheerleaders.
The university leadership had exceptionally high hopes, though. They had already gone out and bought a dozen authentic instruments before the author even arrived in the country.
They were ready to go.
They thought they were. He was the very first Brazilian to step into that specific scene in Utah to try and make this fusion happen.
Wait a minute, I'm stuck on this Utah part. These are university-level marching band kids.
Right.
They eat complex polyrhythms for breakfast, give them sheet music, and they should nail it in an hour.
Yeah.
Why is it described as such a tricky, disastrous thing to put into practice?
Well, what's fascinating here is the illusion of translation. The university in Utah essentially viewed samba as a plug-and-play aesthetic.
Ah, I see.
They assumed they could just buy the hardware, distribute the sheet music, and drop it onto an American football field. But when the author got there, the students didn't even know the right type of sticks to use for which instrument.
Wait, really? You can't just pick up a standard wooden snare drumstick, like the kind you use in a marching band, and start wailing on a repinique.
Exactly. The repinique is traditionally played with one specific type of wooden stick and one bare hand.
Oh, wow.
And the surdao requires thick, padded mallets. The physical tools themselves have a lineage. And, it's a trap we all fall into, right?
Definitely.
Think about when your company tries to adopt a new management system, or when you decide to learn a complex new hobby. We see a team succeeding with a certain tool, so we buy the tool thinking it will magically fix our output.
A magic bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utah bought the drums, but they couldn't buy the culture. If you try to implement the instruments without understanding the foundational unwritten rules behind them, everything collapses.
The author says it quickly morphed from a straightforward music class into a necessary, ground-up introduction to Brazilian culture. People were struggling to find out not just how the music is made, but how it is supposed to be.
Yes, the mindset.
The underlying philosophy.
Yeah.
The posture, the attitude.
Which brings us to the ultimate question of this document.
Right.
If handing out instruments and sheet music fails so spectacularly, whether you are in a sterile courtyard in Goiás or on a frozen turf field in Utah, how do the authentic schools actually pull this off?
Yeah, how do they coordinate 400 drummers marching down the Samba drumo in perfect, earth-shattering sync without it turning into acoustic mud?
To understand that, we have to pull back the curtain on the massive technical architecture that makes a true samba battery function.
Let's do it.
And the author explains this beautifully by recalling a conversation he had with a former U.S. student. The student had asked him about a specific snare drum rhythm that the author used in a composition, asking where he could find the sheet music for it.
And the author's response reveals this entire secret world.
No.
He tells the student that the rhythm was just pulled from a vast array of snare drum rhythms that a specific samba school possesses.
Yeah, he calls these rhythms levadas, the rhythm conductions or cadences. And here is the crucial detail. These levadas are largely unwritten.
Unwritten. For an ensemble of up to 400 people?
Yes.
I mean, I can't even get 4 people to agree on a dinner reservation without a spreadsheet. And they are managing a 400-person drum line through oral tradition.
They are kept internally, almost like trade secrets, within the schools in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro.
That's incredible.
Each school has its own unique sonic identity, and they pull out different levadas each year for the annual competitions. If you watch a samba school perform, it's never going to be exactly the same thing twice.
So how is it structured?
The architecture managing this oral tradition is staggering. You have an ensemble of 200 to 400 players, and guiding them are 10 directors, which is the term they use for the percussion professors.
10 directors managing hundreds of players through unwritten shifting rhythms. And they use a very specific 5-step formula to build this colossal wall of sound.
Let's dissect that 5-step formula because it reveals the hidden engineering behind the art. Step 1 is teaching the bass samba rhythm across the entire battery. They call this the conducao, or the cadencing. It is the fundamental groove that everything else will sit on top of.
Okay, the bass groove.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But step 2 is where I got really tripped up reading this.
Oh, yeah.
Step 2 is getting that conducao perfectly clean and strictly in time at exactly 140 beats per minute. Wait, 140 beats per minute with 0 variations.
0 variations.
That sounds like a rigid military march. That sounds completely antithetical to the whole wild, expressive, joyful Brazilian carnival vibe we've been talking about.
It sounds counterintuitive, but it's dictated by the laws of physics. When you have a sprawling line of 400 percussionists marching down a massive avenue, sound travels at a finite speed.
The delay.
Exactly. If the people at the front of the line are even a fraction of a millisecond out of sync with the people at the back, the echoing delay turns the entire performance into chaotic noise.
Right.
That strict, unwavering 140 BPM adherence is the acoustic glue holding the entire community together.
So once they have that relentless 140 BPM foundation poured, they move to step 3, introducing individual breaks, which are called viradas.
Yeah, these are the quick explosive fills where a specific section, or even a soloist, gets to break out of the groove for a measure to add flair, before instantly locking back into that 140 BPM grid.
Then we hit step 4, introducing the ensemble rhythms, The author lists things like Samba Partido, Sexado, Baião, and Vasi.
And to give some context there, Zexado and Baião are actually regional rhythms from northeastern Brazil. The samba schools absorb these different cultural beats, weave them into the battery, and adapt them to that driving samba tempo.
Wow.
It shows how the drum line acts as a sponge for the broader culture of the country.
And finally, step 5. This is what they call the bosses, or the conventions. This is the grand finale of the learning process.
The big moments.
Exactly. It's when all the pieces, the bass groove, the individual fills, the regional rhythms, are put together to build the final, highly complex musical phrases. The grand moments where the entire 400-person ensemble stops on a dime, plays an intricate syncopated rhythm together, and crashes back into the groove.
And the author's breakdown of this 5-step architecture is brilliant because it exposes the exact reason the Utah experiment was doomed from the start.
So what does this all mean? Let's use an analogy here. Building this sound is like constructing a skyscraper.
Right.
The university students in Utah, and even the students in Goiás, wanted to immediately install the decorative penthouse windows. They wanted to jump straight to step 5. The bosses, the flashy conventions, the wild fills.
Excited.
But the 10 directors in Sao Paulo are the structural engineers. They know you have to dig deep into the dirt and pour tons of concrete first. And that concrete is that strictly enforced 140 beats per minute Condicao. If you don't pour the concrete, the penthouse crashes to the ground.
I completely agree. And those 10 directors act as crucial communication nodes across that massive physical network to make sure the concrete sets evenly.
Yeah.
What we are really looking at here is a profound paradox. You have this wild, deeply expressive art form that is globally celebrated for its tempero brasileiro, its vibrant, unpredictable spice. Yet the only way it can function at such an immense scale is through highly rigid precision at the base level.
Crazy to think about.
That strict foundation is ironically the exact mechanism that allows the freedom and the passion to exist without collapsing into absolute chaos.
It's the ultimate marriage of discipline and joy. You need the rigid grid of the rhythm to support the absolute chaos of the barbecue, the sponsor shirts, and the carnival energy. And it really synthesizes the entire journey the author took us on today.
It really does.
We started in the intensely vibrant pork chop and feijoada-fueled rehearsals of Rosas de Oro in Sao Paulo, where we saw how alive and intertwined the culture and the music are.
From there, we traveled to the sterile, confused university courtyard in Goiás. We watched native students fail because they thought they could just ask for the mathematical beats and magically recreate the magic, completely ignoring the shared social experience.
And then we went all the way to Utah, watching a well-meaning American football program try to buy their way into the culture with a dozen fresh instruments, only to realize they didn't even know how to physically hold the sticks.
Let alone grasp the unwritten cultural laws governing them.
Exactly. All of which slowly peeled back the curtain to reveal that meticulous, unwritten 5-step system. Levadas, the Condicao, the Viradas, the regional ensemble rhythms, and finally, the bosses. All managed by those 10 vital directors acting as the nervous system for 400 people.
It's a powerful reminder that true mastery of any complex system requires the spice of the context. You cannot just download the raw data of the notes, hand out a PDF, and expect a group of people to make music.
No, you really can't.
You have to understand the soil it grew in, you have to understand the culture, you have to be willing to smell the charcoal in the parking lot, to bring it back to your tailgate analogy.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to consider long after we wrap up here.
Yeah, I think so too. If the true essence of samba, and arguably the essence of any profound, unified team endeavor, is so deeply rooted in these unwritten, highly physical, communal experiences like eating together at the Quadra da Bateria,
Right.
what happens to rich cultural identities in our increasingly digitized modern world?
That's a great point.
As we lean more and more heavily on remote learning, as we try to pass on complex human knowledge through glowing screens and shared Google Docs, can true cultural spice ever really be transmitted digitally?
Yeah, can it?
Or will we always lose something vital, something irreplaceable, when we aren't breathing the same air, feeling the same acoustic vibrations in our chests, and sharing the same meal?
It makes you wonder. If you hand that alien the football rule book through a computer screen, they might memorize every single penalty yardage perfectly. But they will never know what it feels like to freeze in that parking lot, waiting for the game to begin. Keep looking for the spice in everything you learn, and we will see you on the next deep dive.